Good evening, Charlestown Pirate football fans. Welcome to the 4th annual Charlestown Pirate football season preview show. I'm Brian Glover, and I'm joined tonight by football broadcasting partner Brian Keith and Charlestown Pirate football head coach Jason Hawkins.
This year we come to you from Charlestown, American Legion Post 335 after the annual Pirate football scrimmage, brought to you by Pirate Pride Broadcasting and Digital Connectors of Charlestown. This year's special edition Talk with Hawk features preseason discussion, outlook into 2012 Pirate football and Mid-Southern Conference football campaigns, along with Charlestown head football coach Jason Hawkins.
Coach, welcome to the preseason show. We're glad you and your staff could join us again this year. And I know Pirate fans are eagerly awaiting this year's football season, so for the next 50 minutes, fans, we'll have plenty of preseason conversation, outlook to kick things off into high gear for this year's 2012 football season.
So thanks for joining us. Stay right where you are for the annual Charlestown Pirate football season preview show. Get started right after these messages.
Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating, your local provider of gravel and dirt hauling and custom excavating services. 29 years of diverse experience, including in-ground pools, commercial snow removal, basements, land clearing, and site work. For Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating, no job is too big or too small. You can reach Bill at either 812-256-2406 or 502-930-2408. Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating.
Founded in 1949, the Grayson Funeral Home has served the needs of Charlestown. The Grayson family continues to provide important services such as funerals, monuments, vaults, and cremations from locations in Charlestown, New Washington, and throughout southeastern Indiana. We're proud of our Charlestown heritage, and we believe in making our city a better place to live, work, and play. Our civic pride shines through in our support of community organizations like the Lions Club, the Charlestown Pirate Pride Athletic Booster Club, local churches, and youth activities. We also participate in the Mayor's Vision Team, determining the direction of the future of Charlestown. And we care for the Charlestown Cemetery, ensuring that the memories of our loved ones are properly honored. Generations of Pride is the City of Charlestown's slogan. 4 generations of Graysons have served Charlestown and New Washington over the years and will be here for years to come.
Let State Farm agent Dale Robinson handle all the moving parts to your insurance. Whether it's for auto, home, life, or financial services, Dale is there with more ways to help and more ways to save. Call or visit Dale today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to the Pirate Football preseason show, our special edition of the weekly pregame conversation known as Talk with Hawk, with Charlestown head coach Jason Hawkins. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. We've had a good summer with practice. We started a little bit earlier than what we have been used to, and we've got in some good scrimmages against Jeffersonville, Seymour, and also New Albany. And then we also got a couple weeks to take off, which I spent 2 weeks in Florida with my family. And also got to go to Walt Disney World with my little girl. So she enjoyed that. So she had fun, and I was tired every night. So I guess everything went pretty good.
Well, Coach, I'm glad to see that you're putting your priorities straight. I know football is one of those priorities, but if the wife and kids ain't happy, then football season's not going to be happy.
Well, when football starts, my wife knows it's time to leave me alone, and she can talk to me again in November.
Absolutely. Well, we hope we make it to November. That's what we're looking forward to. Pirate fans, tonight's season preview show centers around the upcoming 2012 football season, including a recap of the 2011 season, which I thought was a great season, a look at the personnel of this year's 2012 Pirate football team, the preseason progress, Coach, which you're going to have a chance to talk about, as well as the outlook of the Mid-Southern Conference football title race, what it might look like this year.
Before we get started, we want to remind Pirate Nation that for the 5th consecutive year, Pirate Pride Broadcasting will bring you every second of the 2012 upcoming football season. Again this year, Bud McClellan, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, will be joining me in the booth for live play-by-play and game action. Brian Glover returns for another season on the Pirate sideline to inform the Charlestown nation of what's going on the Pirate sideline, while Chuck Ledbetter, who's the master of the controls, returns for the production, and Adam Tolliver's back doing stats this year. For all the details of Pirate Pride coverage, please, if you haven't done so, please do it. Visit the Charlestown Pirate Pride website at www.charlestownpiratepride.com.
And one more thing, Brian, we would be crazy not to mention this. We have to give a special thank to our sponsors of Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting. The majority of these sponsors have been with us for the 5 years, which is the entire broadcasting life that we've had. We need to send a special thanks to our anchor sponsor, Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating, the pre- and post-game sponsor, Grayson Funeral Homes, our scoreboard sponsor, Dale Robinson State Farm Agency, the halftime show sponsored by the Charlestown Pizza Company. Love their pizza, by the way. The player of the game sponsor, Tumbletown Gym. And last but not least, our hit of the week sponsor, Park Street Body Shop.
Yep. Now on tonight's football preseason show, let's start with a general overview of the 2012 Pirate football team.
Let's get into it. Well, Coach, we've got a schedule in front of you here, and we're just going to kind of walk down piece by piece and take a look at these games and kind of get some discussion going with you. First game away at Madison. We look at that game as last year kind of one of those that we kind of stumbled a little bit. So is this one of those revenge games that you're looking for?
Well, we're hoping so. I made a comment tonight and referred it to Madison, and I had Jake Harper and Matt Myers standing by me, and they agreed. And I'm not sure if I said I'd jump off the bridge or what I said, but they agreed with if we play like we did last year, we'll go with you. So I think all the kids have understood that we shouldn't have lost last year, and I would be very upset if we're not ready to play that game. Madison's got a good receiver back. They're going to be very young. They lost the coach's son that ran the ball very well last year against us in the second half. And, they were a good football team. They only won one game. But I was reading in the book today, every game they were in the game besides like two.
Right.
And the conference that they play in, that's pretty good.
They're playing schools bigger than them every week.
Right.
You just brought it up. Is the revenge factor something that you do use in practice as motivation? Is that something that you've thrown out to your team for the last couple of weeks? Is that something they hear about a lot?
I think revenge factor is a big thing in high school sports, that especially when you lose a game that your team feels like or knows when they walk off the field they thought they should win. I think that would definitely give extra motivation for the next season. Of course, and then after, the next game you go into Brownstown, then that's not only a revenge factor, but it's also a rivalry. So, anything that you can use, and I think, Brian, you've known this because you've helped a little bit with it, is anything with motivation with high school kids. I think any way we can do it, anyhow we can do it. Sometimes if we have to lie.
No doubt.
I think you have to find a way to motivate the kids.
But, sometimes that also has the opposite effect. Do you worry about any of your kids on your squad maybe giving somebody else bulletin board material whenever they're talking to people or the media?
I don't know. I guess that's always a possibility. I was probably the worst. I can remember back in high school when Floyd Central decided to drop us, and the reporter got me going out, and Dad didn't even know I was talking to him, and he said, "Well, what do you think about Floyd Central dropping you?" And I looked right at him. I said, "Well, I think it's like a slap in my mom's face."
Oh, my.
And it was in the paper the next day, and I thought my dad was going to kill me.
Oh, sure.
And so I guess there's pluses and minuses, but it happens. But you try to find anything you can as a coach.
Well, I don't think there's any motivation that's going to be needed for our second game, which is Brownstown at home, which has to be a relief that we get to play them here on our home turf. You look at a team last year that went 9-1. They were MSC champs, coached by one of the best coaches in the state of Indiana, besides yourself, Reed May, who's 186 and 39.
Well, I wouldn't put me on his pedestal yet. But hopefully
we're working towards that, correct?
Yeah, hopefully.
There you go.
Soon.
And I don't think that you need to motivate our kids for that. I think everybody in Southern Indiana will have their eyes on that game. Any comments on that?
Well, Brownstown has lost a lot. They lost. Going back to that game too, that game probably hurt me more than the Madison game because I felt like our kids came back after that Madison loss and played so hard. And, after you lose to Madison, of course, there's a lot of people that don't think you're going to win that game. Mm-hmm. And our kids played they played 48 minutes, and they played hard, and they deserved to win. Mm-hmm. And we had them. Reed was over there saying, with 7 minutes left, we're getting ready to score. Reed looks at his coach and said, "It's over. They got us." we're getting ready to go up 11 points with 6 minutes, and that's tough for a high school team to come back from.
Sure.
And the ball bounced the wrong way. They get it back, they score, and then we fumble again, and a couple mistakes here and there, and I just felt real bad for the kids that game because I thought we deserved to win. I felt bad because the kids played so hard and they deserved something after the week before of losing. I felt they deserved something good to happen to them, and that game hurt. Of course, we know after that we turned it around and everything went pretty well.
Right.
But I felt bad for the kids, but I think if I remember this straight, in the huddle that night I said, if we play with as much heart and we play as hard as we did tonight, we're going to be a pretty good football team in the long run, and I think we ended up that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one thing that works in the Pirate Nation favor this year is you don't have to worry about looking ahead to Brownstown because of the revenge factor in that first game with Madison. You can't. You got a game right in front of you with Madison, like we just talked about. They're not going to be looking ahead, which is good. And no coach wants their team looking ahead to another game. So it's nice the way the schedule fell this year that we can get 2 revenge games right out of the way right off the bat.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, the last thing about Brownstown I would like to add is every year, and I've been one of the worst, especially when I was younger, I was bad at it, is every year when you look down and Reed-May lost 15 or 16 seniors, you're like, oh, they can't be very good. They lost 15 or 16 seniors.
They're still Brownstown.
And they're still Brownstown. And every year he finds a way to have a good football team. Now, they might not be as good week 2 as they're going to be in week 10, but by the time they're in sectional, Reed-May will have a good football team.
They'll be ready to play.
Well, on the flip side of that, we go to Clarksville the next week, and I know their quarterback, Wes Rittman, is gone this year. I know Clarksville probably – down a little bit this year. What's your outlook on that game?
Well, I don't know if they're down very. I actually spoke with Coach Cooley today at the teachers' first day, and he's more excited about this team than he's been since he's been there. I think Coach Cooley is a very good coach, but I think he sometimes gets maybe a little excited on teams early. But I do think he is excited. I haven't seen him like this since he was at Jeff.
Right.
I mean, he does think he's got a good football team. He's got a lot of kids back. I asked him about what's going on at quarterback, and without him telling me exactly what's going on, he acts like it's okay, and they got somebody that's going to play there. He is very upbeat. He's never going to say a negative comment about his team, and they'll be ready to play. They were beating us at half last year before we turned it on. I think we ended up beating them 42-12. But I think that'll be a close game, and I mean, if we play well, do I think we can beat them? Yes, but they'll have a good football team.
I don't think there's any doubt. And what I expect, and you would know better than I, but I expect them to have some really good skill position players. I think one thing that got them last year was we probably wore them out in the second half, and they wasn't very big up front. Not sure what they got up front this year, but they've always had a few skill position players that have always been capable of doing some big things. So I expect the same thing out this year. If they get the ball in the right hands, some guys, they could do some damage to some people.
And a long tradition at Clarksville. Tradition goes a long way when you play a team like that. That's one of those teams that plays with a lot of heart, whether they're up by 40 or down by 40. So moving on to the next game, we get a game here at home against North Harrison. They have a new coach by the name of Mark Williamson. Any conversation with him?
I actually have. I gave him the ex-coach took all the film, so he had nothing to go off of. And Steve Hatton is the principal, and he went to Clarksville, and we were pretty good friends. He called and asked if he could have some film. I said that was fine. I'll help him out as much as I could. So I gave him like 3 or 4 films. I met him in Dick's Sporting Goods parking lot, and we started talking. He said, well, he's kind of telling me what defense they'd run or whatever. He goes, I've heard you're going to have a really good team. I said, yeah, we should be pretty good. He looks at me, and he says, you're not going to get mad when we don't snap the ball until there's 1 second on the clock.
Try to slow things down.
And I said, no, I'm not going to get mad. I said, but you're not going to get mad if we snap the ball every 5 seconds, are you?
Turnabout's fair play.
So he kind of looked at me and smiled and started laughing, and then he got in his car and left. And I was like, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
So we've set the stage for that game.
Yeah, we kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
Well, follow up on that is another home game, which I know every Pirate fan is looking forward to. We have Silver Creek at home. This is your second year of varsity play, and quite honestly, last year, Silver Creek kind of they held their own a lot of those times. So, what's your foresight into that?
Well, they're still going to be very young. They think they say that they have a pretty good offense. They say they average 20, whatever they say over.
Right. Didn't score less than 18.
Right, didn't score less than 18 is their comment that they use. And so they're going to be better. I feel like they lost their best player with that receiver. I thought he gave us some problems last year because he was so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be a good high school football team, you got to eventually have good offensive and defensive lines, and I think that's going to take them a couple years to get. I think they do have some skilled athletes that they can maybe do some things with, but until they develop, a weight program and what they're doing in the weight room and have a good offensive defensive line, I still think they're going to struggle maybe a little bit.
Well, and one thing, and I know you was in attendance last year, as was I last year, to watch the 8th grade team play a Silver Creek team, and they had a lot of talent
They did have
on that 8th grade
talent,
team. They have 2 players that I know of. One was their quarterback, who is an up-and-coming star, in my opinion, which obviously is young, just now going to be a freshman, but he's an up-and-comer. They also had a lineman that was invited to a camp in San Antonio that's just now getting ready to be a freshman. So they've really got some up-and-coming talent. Always had a lot of talent at that school. It wasn't football talent, but it was talent nonetheless, and I think they've always had some kids there that could do some damage. And just like you said, once they're there and they get a good program going, I think they will be something to contend with down the road.
I agree.
And I think you said it best, Brian. You can look at their youth football league and see how that's really turned around, and you can see that you better beat them while you can because they're going to get tougher as the years go on. Next game, we go away to Salem. It looks like it's going to be another rebuilding project there in Salem. What do you got to say about that game?
Coach Mo is going to do a good job. I've heard he's working the kids real hard, and he's got a lot of kids back. The 2 tailbacks he had that ran pretty good against us in the first series last year are both back. The quarterback's back. He said he would go down the list every week and look to see what team was losing. So he looked at me and goes, "You're the only team I got found so far that's not losing nothing."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." And he started shaking his head. He goes, "Everybody else, I got more coming back, but you all, I don't." So he's going to do a good job. I mean, he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame for nothing. His record speaks for himself, and as long as he's there, he's going to get better every year.
Yeah, and I think you said it. You cannot have the type of coaching record that he has. It speaks for itself. They went after him for a reason, to the point where I remember before he ever went there, you told me there was a chance he could be there, and I laughed it off, thinking there was no chance in the world.
Me too.
You know.
Modsinger told me one night at a basketball game, and I kind of looked at him and I said a comment. I'm not going to rephrase, but I couldn't believe it. And,
And for just to see him there and the kind of impact that he could have on a program like Salem, who has some success in the past, I think he will build that. It is going to take a while, but he will get ahead in the right direction.
I agree.
We follow up that away game with another away game at Corden, and Coach Ward there returns, minus the Wendell twins. Me personally speaking, probably one of the most impressive teams I saw play last year. I was just I couldn't believe the offensive line splits that this team had. They really looked like they were,
covered the field.
A college team, and really impressive last year. We go away to play them. I know they've lost some players, but anything to say on that game?
Yeah, I really like Darren. I don't know. I wouldn't say that we're probably similar in coaching, but I really respect him for the job that he's done. And I've never watched him coach at practice, but watching him in games, I just like how he acts. He seems like he's a real smooth guy. He never gets real mad, never really gets real excited. He just coaches, and I really think he's one of the better coaches in our conference that we have. And I like playing Corden because I feel like, I think he knows down deep that he's going to get the best out of us, and I feel like I know that we're going to get the best out of them. And I think definitely we're more talented than they are this year, but I do think he'll have them ready to play.
Well, one thing that stuck out with me with Corden since Coach Ward's been there on his second stint this time around for the last 2 years, but in my personal opinion, his defensive scheme and game plan has been as good against our offense as anything. Not to say that we haven't hurt him with several things. I mean, we scored – I think 33-something or 34 one time against them, 27, 28 another time. Not saying we didn't have success, but I think we did that with maybe some exceptional athletes. Not that the game plan was, but I'm just saying the defensive game plan that he come up with is solid. He seems a little bit, I don't want to say timid, but conservative on the offensive side of the ball, it seems like to me. But as far as his defensive scheming, to me, it's about as good as we go against all year.
I think the first time when we beat him, I think we beat him 21-19, and he told me, I think the next day, that he just didn't think his kids understood how good we were. That pretty much trying to say, not saying that they overlooked us, but trying to say that they just didn't get how good our tailback was and how good Aaron was. And their kids just didn't get it. But then I finally, when we should have beat them the second time, which I'm not going to say we should have beat them the second
No,
time.
there's no doubt.
I think they
Yeah, they knew then.
Yeah, they finally knew. I mean,
Right.
we were here.
It hit
I
home.
mean, yeah.
Well, this year we come back and play Providence at home, and Larry Dennison begins his second year there. And I know last year he kind of walked into a mess there where, incomplete coaching staff about halfway through the preseason. And in his evening news article this week, he was talking about he was glad to be able to work with these kids for an entire season. They went 5-5 last year, but really played us tough down at Providence, which we expect. What do you look for in that game?
Providence, by that time, will be pretty good. They're changing their offenses again. Brad Troutman's calling the offense, and then they got Jason Mullis from North Harrison, used to be the head coach, calling the defense. So they got two ex-coaches calling both the offense and defense. They're going to be – it depends on how they play against Jeff and New Albany and Floyd. If they don't lose anybody and nobody gets hurt, by the time they get to us, they're going to be pretty good.
I agree. And the way I have been describing Providence to everybody that I talked to in the preseason, there's a couple things you can almost bank on every year. Is they're going to be disciplined. Why ever that is, I don't know, but every year they're disciplined. They're not going to kill themselves with mistakes, and they're going to be good at fundamentals. That's things that you can bank on almost every single year with Providence. You got the same things you can bank on. They're going to cover the basics.
But that last year, the game was pretty close, and they did turn the ball over for us to –
I think we caused those turnovers. I think we went and took that game in the second half. If you think back, that's a game that we didn't have Seth in the first half. He comes back in the second half, makes a big interception.
Were we losing 21-14 at half?
I think we were down at half.
That must have been a pretty good halftime speech, huh?
It must have been. So, that was a game where, not to say one player is going to make or break you, but obviously, Seth was kind of a game changer in that game and come back and makes big plays on offense, big plays on defense. And Steven Johnson has a big block punt in that game to turn the game around. It was just one of the most exciting games of the year last year, I thought.
I agree. Our last game we play is away at Eastern. And of course, in a rebuilding year. But one thing that I remember from last year, very impressive running back down there last year, really carried the team. Hearing anything about Eastern?
Not really. I think he is saying it's a rebuilding year, but like Coach Bradford said this the other day, we really don't like playing them so late because of the way they play defense. I'm not saying they got a great defense, but they do a very good job on teaching tackling. Mm-hmm. And it seems like they always go low, and when
that's a good point.
Team tackles low all week, you're worried about protecting your knees and
ankles,
getting into the sectional healthy. So playing them late, they'll get a lot better. I think he's done a good job coaching. I think they went 500 last year, and only how many years have they been playing? 4 or 5.
Yeah, for this fourth or fifth year.
So I do think they'll be ready to go by that time. It's just going to depend on, again, if people get hurt or what happens throughout the year. If they win a couple big games, or they lose a couple big games, it's going to be
could make or break the season, depending on how they react.
Yep.
Well, moving on, we finished the regular season and looking forward to the Mid-Southern Conference. Looking to some of your predictions for the conference, and we always hate to ask this question, but who would you see as the favorite teams in the conference this year?
Well, I'm not going to hold it back. Somebody asked me the other day. They said the quote was, "How do you look at being the favorite team?" I said, "Well, I'd rather be the favorite than be the underdog."
That's right.
At least everybody in town is expecting us to be good, and that's not holding back from what I'm thinking either. I also think that we should be good, and I've thought that ever since I've been here. That every year I thought we should do pretty good in the conference, and most years we have done pretty well.
Right, no doubt.
I don't think we've ever lost more than one game in the conference, have we, since I've been here? 5 years?
I know in 2008 we tied, but that probably was still with one loss looking back, or maybe two that year.
I mean, I don't think going off the ledge of having people arguing with me, I would say that we are the favorite in the conference. I followed up with Brownstown and Corden, of course. Mm-hmm. And then after that, after the dark horse team, I think, in my opinion, would either be Clarksville or North Harrison.
Okay.
With Salem, close.
You want, as we lead on the next segment, you want to talk about, I think it's a good time to talk about your staff. I mean, since you've been here, you've always found a way. You've kept your good core of staff. But you just want to go run down through your coaches real quick and talk about your staff?
I'll start out offensively. Our offensive staff have been together. It's our second year totally. I coach the quarterbacks. Jimmy Worley coaches the running backs. Diddy Van does an unbelievable job with the line. He's been here ever since I came in, all 5 years coaching the offensive line. And I don't think we've ever averaged under 30 points. So that's a big factor. And then coaching the receivers is Chad Vincent that played at Clarksville. And they've all done a good job. I'm very happy about how we looked, how we played last year. Somebody told me this, and I didn't know this. We averaged 40 points last year. Did you know that?
That surprised me a little bit. I would have thought a little less than that.
I thought less too.
That surprises me.
I said 30.
40 is a lot of points.
I said 37. And
either way, that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, 40 to 37 is a big difference. So.
Right.
And then on the defensive staff, Coach Bradford has been calling the defense for about the last 2.5 years. Coaching defensive line is David Daniel. Coaching linebackers is Eric May. Jake Cook is a new addition. He helped a little bit during the summer last year, and he's coaching the corners, and he's really doing an excellent job.
Yeah, just commented during the scrimmage, Jake does great with the one-on-one instruction. I noticed when he gets the corners and safety off to the side, when he does his individual instruction, does a great job with that.
I couldn't be – well, we saw it last year. Me and Chris talked a little bit, and we were hoping that he didn't – he's going to school. I'm not telling the kid to quit school. Right. But we were hoping that he would stay last year to coach, to help out, because we saw – when you can see
potential.
When you can watch a guy coach, you can kind of see.
You get a sense.
He's kind of got it. He's kind of got it a little bit. And adding him to the staff now, he's done it. I can't be more pleased. He last night I was getting on him because I turned and he was telling a couple coaches what he wanted them to do, and I didn't even jump in. I was just sitting there and I was looking. I was like,
that's pretty impressive.
I was like, man, I go. They walked off and I started laughing with him. I was like, Jake, that's pretty impressive that you knew exactly what I would have said. I didn't even say it, and you just told him what to do. I said, he goes, well, I didn't mean to step. I go, no, you're not stepping on my toes.
Absolutely. I want to see that.
You did exactly what I would have done. That's pretty impressive.
Well, thanks, Coach. Well, that's going to conclude segment one. Stay right where you are. The Charlestown Pirate Pride preseason show. We'll be right back following these sponsors.
Have you sampled the best pizza in town? The Charlestown Pizza Company uses only handmade dough and sauces combined with freshly grated cheese to prepare their pizza hot and fresh for you. Pasta, sandwiches, appetizers, salads, and a wide range of desserts including Nutter Butter brownies, banana splits, Italian ice, and Snickers cream cheese pie are all local favorites at the Charlestown Pizza Company. The Charlestown Pizza Company open until 11 p.m. on Fridays. Stop by and see us before and after the game. The Charlestown Pizza Company on the square at 850 Main and is proud to sponsor the Pirates. Get down with Charlestown at the CPC.
Interested in advertising your business or organization on Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting while supporting Pirate and Lady Pirate athletics at the same time? Commercial spots range in price from $50 to $75 per season or school year. For more information, log on to www.charlestownpiratepride.com, go to the broadcasting section and click on the advertising link at the top of the page. Or email us at voiceofthepirates@charlestownpiratepride.com to get it started today. There's no better advertising investment than supporting our student athletes. Interested in tumbling and cheer classes? Tumbletown, located at 250 Harrison Street in Charlestown, is the gym for kids 2.5 years and up. Classes are available weeknights in both private and semi-private classes. Tumbletown, combined with Indiana United of Sellersburg as United All-Stars, also offers competitive cheerleading for mini and youth levels through junior and senior levels of national and local competition. Tumbletown is a proud Pirate Athletics supporter, so contact them today at 256-2566 or log on to www.tumbletown.biz.
Welcome back to American Legion Post 335 in Charlestown. We're here along with Brian Glover, my partner in the booth, and Coach Denny Van of the offensive line. Coach Van, let's just start talking off about, Coach Hawk just mentioned that you've been here the whole time on the staff, and kind of how does this year, the thing I want to know is how's this line and this team compare to, say, the 2017?
Ooh. Well, I think the main comparison was that with 07, our expectations were nowhere near what we're at now.
Right, I agree with that.
That was I don't know that we can really compare any other team to that group. You had kids that were forced into action really early.
Coming off a campaign where they were not successful the year before.
Not at all.
Where this is the opposite of that.
Right.
So.
But you just had, you had probably 5 or 6 leaders on that team. And I'm not saying that this group doesn't have that. I don't know that we've got that, one clear-cut kid that's stepped up yet. They're –
I think we have one clear cut, but you probably seem a little tentative to talk about it since he's yours. But I think Leighton kind of fills that role when you watch him out on the field.
Yeah, he's done well for us, and we've been fortunate because, we've got kids that we kind of had to force into action. Last year we only had 5 seniors, so these kids have been, they've had to come in and basically start as sophomores, which normally at Charlestown that just doesn't happen.
Right.
Which. Other than Cole, which we've moved over to the defensive side of the ball, we've got everybody back. Like I said, our expectations are pretty strong. We've not teed it up yet on a Friday, so,
haven't turned the lights on, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah.
You've already touched on it, but, key losses, but you really, like I said, you really didn't lose anybody per se, but you decided to move one, Cole Noakes to the other side of the ball. But as far as losing personnel, at least on the starters, you didn't really lose anything. But that's not to say you didn't lose some depth maybe with some other guys.
Right. That's definitely a concern, I think, for me and most of the staff. There's certain spots, me included, that our second group is, I'll say, inexperienced.
Right.
We've not had to force them guys into action yet. So, we need to keep those kids healthy. That's the bottom line. I'm probably running 7, maybe 8 kids regularly with varsity. After that, then we're going to sophomores and freshmen, which we just don't want to get back to that. It's good to hit that those kids are getting good experience, but it's just not really where we're wanting to be,
Well, one of my favorite questions to ask a coach is as you've been through this preseason, if you've been through the practices, you've been through the scrimmages, has there been that one kid that's kind of really surprised you or really shocked you that's came back from last year or that's just joined the team this year? Has there been that one kid that's kind of stood out to you?
Geez. That's kind of tough. That is a good question,
and
Brian.
It really doesn't have to do. It really doesn't have to do with their play. It's just that this person has really stepped it up. That really just could have stood out for you.
I don't know that I could really name one. I know like a Zach Knight who does everything we ask him to do.
Right.
Probably doesn't get quite the minutes that he's looking for. Connor Brock, same kind of situation.
Yep.
We try to get them as much reps during the day that we possibly can. Unfortunately, on Friday, they might not be in there when it's, games on the line.
Right.
As far as a standout kid, I think Steven Johnson's one that if he were anywhere else in the conference, he would be all conference.
Be the guy.
And so would Alec Wakefield.
Right.
I've been real fortunate. We've got some kids that are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That and like I said, Leighton Brewer, Steven Johnson, Austin Keith, Kyle Ritchie, Alec Wakefield. Those kids have started for us at least 2 years.
Right.
Right. So we've been lucky. And like I said, we've had to force those guys kind of into the game early on. So after that, we've not had the luxury to kind of work these other guys in, and it's kind of cost us as far as having much of a second group.
Okay.
Right.
So.
Well, Coach Van, we definitely appreciate your insight. We definitely look forward to the offensive line, being one of the staples to the team. There's no doubt that I'm sure Coach Hawkins and the whole offensive staff is depending on you to open up holes for Seth and Aaron and everybody else to touch the ball and give Aaron time to throw the ball. So we definitely look forward to watching those guys, and we're going to come back right after these messages with an interview with Coach Bradford about the defense. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, Pirate Nation football fans. Charlestown Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting's Beat the Broadcast Pick'em contest returns in 2012. This weekly Mid-Southern Conference Football Pick the Winner contest challenges you to beat the Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting football broadcast crew for the 3rd consecutive year. Just go to the Pirate Pride website at www.charlestownpiratepride.com and look for the Beat the Broadcast logo shown here. Click on it and see how much fun hundreds of area MSC football fans have had trying to beat the broadcast crew. Even if you don't beat the crew, you can beat everyone else who's playing weekly, just like these guys did in 2010 and 2011. they won cool Pirate Nation prizes, like season tickets and fan stuff. So give it your best shot, but bring your A game, because the football broadcast crew knows MSC football. No purchase is necessary, however, rules and restrictions do apply. So see the contest rules section on our website before you get too excited. This year's contest begins on August 24th, so good luck and thanks for supporting Charlestown Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting.
Welcome back, Pirate fans, to the 2012 Charlestown Pirate Football preseason show. And we've got assistant coach Chris Bradford, who kind of spearheads this defense that Charlestown is extremely proud of. And Chris, I sit here and look at some of the stats from last year, and you have to feel pretty fortunate as a coach to bring back 6 sophomores that are juniors this year that averaged over 45 solo tackles last year. I see you're smiling right now. I mean, does that leave you in a pretty good spot?
Oh, at least it's in a great spot. Great one.
Yeah.
I know you're I'm going to try to get you to expand on a little bit here. I look at this Pirate coaching staff, and one thing that I love to see, and Coach Hawkins talked to it earlier about how you see a lot of coaches switch. You know, we went from North Harrison to Clarksville. One thing that really I think that me personally I take pride in is I see a lot of Charlestown guys coach Charlestown kids. And does that help with your all's continuity as coaches that you've played beside these guys? You've coached with them for a couple of years. They have a vested interest because they're from Charlestown. Does that help out quite a bit?
Oh, it helps a ton. I mean, not only did I play with them, I've coached me, Coach Van, and Coach Daniels. We've come up through the Little League system together. This whole bunch right here we've had since the 2nd grade. So we've been around all of them. And Coach May, Jake, of course, we all know his dad. Jim, we all played with him. And we've seen Jake grow up. So and everybody knows Coach Worley, and
sure.
so it's been an in-house project.
And that's one thing that me personally, when I'm on the sidelines, I get to see how you all interact, and I kind of see each coach kind of takes it a little bit different. They have a little bit different role. It seems to me that your role has kind of been the screamer. You're the one that's kind of the hammer. You know, I've seen some of them kind of play that dad part that after they get yelled at by you, they kind of come over and get a hug from the other coach. But I guess that must be a prerequisite to be a defensive coach is you got to be the yeller, correct?
Yeah, we've actually, Coach Hawk came in, he said, you know, he wants a good cop, bad cop. So if I yell, somebody needs to reward him. And if Coach May he can get vocal at times too.
He can have a meltdown from time
so
to time.
sometimes me and Coach May change gears. He's the bad guy and I'm the good guy, but seems like since Coach Hawk made me defense coordinator, I've been more the bad guy.
Well, I've noticed just in my few years I've been on the sideline, there's 2 coaches that I usually don't open the mic on when I'm standing around, and that would be you and Coach May. So if I haven't been following you guys around, there is a particular reason for that. So anything, Brian, that you'd like to add?
You know, you just touched on it, and it's not so much of a defensive comment or a question, but you just touched on it. When these kids were 9 and 10 years old, we saw it then. You know, when we coached those kids when they were 9 years old, we saw what kind of player Gage was going to be. Mm-hmm. We saw what kind of player Leighton was going to be. You know, we had Wes and Aaron on that same backfield, and we had Leighton on the line and also on the line. We had a lot of these starters as varsity kids on this same Little League team that we saw then that obviously due to exceptional coaching, I feel, went undefeated and unscored on. But we saw it then what kind of talent those kids were going to want to turn into, even at such a young age. But what you all have been able to do as a staff to nurture those kids and bring them along, it's just been amazing to me. And like I said, no offense to Coach Vincent, I guess he probably feels like the only outcast as I look over there on the staff. It is prideful to see a lot of Charlestown guys sitting there because, like I've always said, one of the best moves I've seen Coach Hawk make is to bring in all these Charlestown guys, because who in the world is going to have more pride about Charlestown program than the guys that come up through it? And
well, I know
you feel that.
I know you say that, but like you look at Providence staff, they got what, 3-4 varsity head coaches over there. Mm-hmm. Look at Coach Hawk. He came in to what's he got? 5 Little League coaches.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we all started out in Little League, went to middle school. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that took a chance, and I mean, I'd like to think it's paid off for him.
It's paid off. That's exactly.
But I
right.
mean, this is a guy. I mean, if it would have went wrong, I mean, he could have been blamed for it too. You know, like who hires a bunch of little league coaches or middle school coaches.
Yeah, and that is I made the comment tonight, standing on the sideline watching the scrimmage. Is the best job in the world is anything with that head coach guy, because that's the one who's paying the price. He's answering all the questions, and that's what I loved about being an assistant coach even in little league. If I had an upset parent, the first thing I did, I pointed to the head coach. You didn't go talk to that guy. So that's the best part about being able to pass the buck. And yes, he did take a chance, and obviously, yes, it's paid off. I think we can also agree to that.
Well, and to Coach Vincent's credit, I saw him this year at the 4-H fair, and that's kind of a rite of passage to becoming a full-fledged Charlestown person.
That's true.
So I think he's finally stepped up to the game and joined the club. So.
Yeah, I mean, once he's been to the 4-H fair, now we got to get him to the sweet shop. He's a full Charlestonian from that point.
Right. and now in the Legion, I mean, what else could you ask for?
Right,
I mean, this guy's
that's the trifecta.
This is kind of baptism by fire.
Legacy.
So thank you very much for stepping up. We really appreciate that. Chris, anything to add to this? I mean, anything? I noticed tonight, one thing I'll just point out, I really noticed this year, different from last year, it seems like this defense plays with a lot of speed. Yes. Last year we seemed to be, I think Coach Hawkins kind of described it as a swarming style defense. This year I actually see them swarm. I mean, I seen some speed tonight, and I know these kids weren't going, 100%, but I thought the speed really stood out tonight.
Oh, they're very fast. Like I said, a lot of people don't realize it was a learning experience. We took Coach Hawk, I mean, for the alum out there listening, they're kind of amazed that Charlestown's running a platoon system.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think with the kids, they love it. The hardest person to please is the alum. They're like, whoa, you got to put your – but I think we've really paid rewards because with the 6 or 7 sophomores we played last year, they'd probably still be waiting with the senior class we have. And in the long run, even Coach Van will tell you, a rested kid, Aaron Daniels is above best. But come fourth quarter when he's ran the ball, 60 times and he's played defense the whole game, I can throw Eli out there. Come third or fourth quarter, I think Eli is just as good as Aaron.
Right.
Just because fatigue-wise.
And I love what you just said about the alumni is the hardest to please. There's no doubt. But one thing that I've stressed talking about is don't look at that as criticism. I know you don't. It's not a criticism. It's a way to rehash and the, hey, I would have type of thing, but it's definitely not a criticism saying we know better. It's nothing like that. It's just a way for us as alumni to rehash the game because we're so passionate about it. But one thing I've always stressed to Coach Hawkins especially is I would hope he would and this whole staff would much rather be at a place where the fans are passionate and backing and care than some place, well, who cares if you win or lose? Because that's not what Charlestown's all about.
Exactly. Well, Coach Bradford, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy after tonight's scrimmage, and just to move forward, I thought the defense tonight really looked awesome. Brian and I were talking about it in the scrimmage. We were just it made our stellar offense kind of look like they had some trouble out there. So. Kudos to you and your staff, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Well, in that order, like I'd say, we play against these guys every day. My kids are. When Hawk lines up in a formation, my kids could probably we've seen it so much. Because football, like when we played, we didn't start till 2-a-days.
Right.
This is it blows my mind how far high school football in Charlestown has come. This is a continuous project.
Absolutely. Well, it's good that we have a coaching staff that stands behind these kids, and we do appreciate your time tonight. And Pirate fans will return after these messages.
Interested in advertising your business or organization on Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting while supporting Pirate and Lady Pirate athletics at the same time? Commercial spots range in price from $50 to $75 per season or school year. For more information, log on to www.charlestownpiratepride.com, go to the broadcasting section and click on the advertising link at the top of the page. Or email us at voiceofthepirates@charlestownpiratepride.com to get it started today. There's no better advertising investment than supporting our student athletes.
Welcome back, Pirate Nation. Again, we're here at American Legion Post 335 here in Charlestown talking about the preseason annual scrimmage. I'm here with Coach Daniel, and Coach Daniel coaches the defensive line and handles a lot of the JV. Coach, just give us an early analysis of what you see from the defensive line. They had some success last year. I know Jimmy's had some medical issues that he's recovering from, but just kind of talk about what you see and what your early analysis is of what your guys are going to look like up front.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, we've been trying to let him get healthy this summer, and kid has got so much strength and speed. You know, we really need him when it counts on Friday night.
The kid is fast. There's no doubt about it.
So you know, and he looks to be getting there. So you know, we're pleased with that. But you know, that D line, you got Desmond Wiley there too, which Desmond led us in sacks last year, and you know, he's got that long reach. He's so fast. I mean, he's
you know, you bring up Desmond. That's interesting because it looks like to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like he's added maybe 15 or 20 pounds of muscle. It looks like you know, I don't look like he's lost any speed, but it looks like he's added some muscle in the offseason. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to watch him because he stayed in the backfield last year.
Yeah, and you know, the kid was a sophomore last year. So I mean, that's the growth, you know, that you see is that, you know, he's adding muscle, but again, didn't lose any speed. You know, there was a play earlier in the week in practice where, you know, that zone read. I mean, he just ate up both Seth and Aaron, and it was like, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, I hear obviously because I happen to live with one of the offensive linemen, but in Austin's analysis, this Jimmy is the hardest person to block up front, and that's not taking away from anything else that you got up there, you know, because you got a lot of talent up there. But he continues to say, I cannot block Jimmy. Yeah. You know, so over and over we continue to hear that. So when we hear that from our own guys, obviously I think some opponents in Mid-Southern Conference are going to feel the same way.
Right, and you know, we got Adam Hoff there in the middle too, and you know, all these guys, all three of them that we just mentioned, were all sophomores last year. And you know, Adam's another kid with a good motor, and you know,
and another kid that's added a bunch of weight again. You know, it looks like he's added a lot of good muscle and changed his body in the off season. So you know, you got to be excited about that.
Yeah, definitely, and you know that. You know, Coach Bradford's talked about this. He's, you know, having a good motor. You know, only having 3 down linemen. We got, you know, guys with motors that just keep going. They just keep coming at you. You know, and in behind that, we got a few other kids that are, you know, a little beefier that we can come in with. You know, we got kids like Stephen Johnson, Leighton Brewer playing offense, but they can come in, you know,
and help you out.
I don't see offensive lines that we oppose that are. They're not going to be pleased. You know, you got fast, quick guys that are strong going around you. Then you bring these guys in. They're just going to run over top of you.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you know, we got a newcomer there, and Briar O'Connell from Henryville, a kid that's plugging in there at nose guard. Big, strong kid. Yeah, he's just, you know, he's got to adjust to varsity football and you know, get more physical. But you know, we got you know, pretty deep defensive line, so feel real good about them.
Well, I'm going to step away from the analysis side of things because I've always wondered how a coach separates himself from being a dad at times. And I know you've coached your son Clay, and then Aaron, then Eli. Do you find yourself struggling with that, being a dad, being a coach kind of thing, or how do you work through that?
Not really, because you know, I'm not working with them. So these are my guys,
right?
And I'm letting them go off. And you know, we got guys taking care of them. I don't have to worry about them because they're going to take care of them. They're going to coach them up and get them where they need to be. So
that is an absolutely great point. You're right that you know they're in good hands, and it's not like you're looking over your own shoulder trying to see what's going on with your 2 kids. You know they're being taken care of. You got your own guys you're focused on. I watch it. You stay focused at what you're doing, and it's fun to watch you at practice because you're as involved as any of the coach out there we got. But that's a great question, and I do see where that could be a problem for some coaches, but because whether you're structured, whether that's on purpose or not, that you're kind of taken away from that asset as far as being directly involved with those 2. And I think that's a good move, whether it was on purpose or not. I think that works out well.
And I think most of us as dads would agree that, you know, it's really tough to coach your own kids and get them to listen to you. So it's a lot easier to step back and let somebody else work.
No doubt. And I know I'm going to say this because I know you won't, but I'd say not that it was a surprise that he did it, but Eli really opened a lot of eyes tonight. Aaron's going to get his accolades. We know that. So Aaron will take care of himself. But to watch Eli step up and make the big hits, the interception that he had, almost had his hands on another one. I mean, to watch him the last couple of days in practice and what he did in this scrimmage today got me excited. That was like the Eli of Little League days.
Yeah, well, and Eli's a kid it's always been about confidence, and this summer he's just had, you know, just grown in confidence and maturity, and he's getting there. And you know, I'm proud of him. You know, I'm proud to see him getting there.
You know, you talked about some of your starters, but as you get maybe on down into the JV kids and some of the guys, maybe the second, third stringers, is there any names that maybe that we haven't heard that maybe, you know, that might be able to get and make a couple plays, that some names we haven't heard so far?
Well, we got another kid, you know, another D lineman that I have, a sophomore, Cody Johnson. Cody Johnson's another one of these kids.
Great example.
with the motor that just keeps going at it. And, he's a kid that can step in and play.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and Brian made a good point. I don't want to take anything away from the way your defense played tonight, but a couple things stood out to me. The one hit by Matt Myers was just, I mean, Brian and I kind of looked at each other and just, that was actually, I think he was on offense and made a block.
Yeah, right.
But, one of your key defensive players, great play there. But, again, Eli looked a little bit more comfortable in the backfield tonight, had an interception, had one he just missed. So, just a couple things that stood out to me from your defense. But again, I would have been remiss if I didn't mention Matt Myers' block.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You just talked about that, and that's one thing that you got to have an advantage of. You got to know you can. In my mind, you can be pretty aggressive, and Coach Bradford can be pretty aggressive in calling those plays, knowing that you've got a linebacker core like you've got behind you. Mm-hmm. To me, you can take a couple of risks up front, maybe run some twists and those kind of things, knowing that you got the Jakes and you've got the Matt Myers and the Seth if he gets works his way into rotation like that. I'm not sure what your plans are with him, but knowing you've got that kind of linebacker staff behind you, you got to feel comfortable up front that you can do a lot of different things.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, we sure appreciate you being with us, Coach Daniel, and we look forward to what you're going to do on the defensive line. And, we're looking real excited to what the JV might do. Got to see a lot of them tonight at the scrimmage like we talked about, and you got a lot of young kids there. Looks like the numbers are up for you. You look like you have plenty of kids to work with.
We have pretty good numbers, and we got kids that are, learning the schemes and then getting a little better each week. So that's all you can ask for.
Right, and we're sure excited about seeing those kids. So, well, that's going to conclude segment 2, and stay right where you are. The Charlestown Pirate Pride preseason football show will be right back following these messages.
Let State Farm agent Dale Robinson handle all the moving parts to your insurance. Whether it's for auto, home, life, or financial services, Dale is there with more ways to help and more ways to save. Call or visit Dale today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating, your local provider of gravel and dirt hauling and custom excavating services. 29 years of diverse experience, including in-ground pools, commercial snow removal, basements, land clearing, and site work. For Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating, no job is too big or too small. You can reach Bill at either 812-256-2406 or 502-930-2408. Bill Broughton Trucking and Excavating.
Welcome back, Pirate Nation. Coach Hawkins and Brian Glover, Brian Keefe coming to you from Charlestown American Legion Post 335 here in Charlestown. And, Coach, let's get right into it. How'd you feel about the scrimmage tonight?
I thought the scrimmage went pretty well. We've been practicing against each other since June. I expect our defense knows our offense just as good as our offense knows our offense.
I did hear some comments from your offensive line, a little frustrated with that, as a matter of fact.
They were a little frustrated, and they get frustrated. We're a no-huddle team, and I'm pretty sure half our defense, if they can see straight, they know the signals of what we're doing. So,
absolutely.
So like I told them tonight after the scrimmage, we're ready to play somebody else other than ourselves. I get on Coach Bradford and the defense all the time because when we go to one formation, they're blitzing a guy off the edge. Well, when they do that, it takes away about 50% of the stuff I like to do out of that formation. So, and he knows that, and I think he does it just to get on my nerves.
Well, yeah, and I think he actually told me that. He does it just to tick you off, so it must be working.
Our defense has done very well all summer. I keep seeing it look like they have improved every scrimmage that we've had. I expect our defense to be very good this year.
Well, I think that's a great point, and Brian and I talked about this all during the scrimmage. Hear a few comments from the stands. Why aren't we scoring every third play? That's what we're used to. But the one thing I think fans are going to find out is where our defense have come is night and day. Right. Not that it was bad, but I'm telling you what I've seen out of this year's defense. We were playing against a different defense last year. Mm-hmm. So the offense is going to be our offense. Right. Again, you just talked about we average 40 points a game. We know what our offense is going to be. But I think what's happening some this year, especially in the preseason, is we're seeing that defense stymie the offense some, and everybody's going like, what's going on? What's wrong with the offense?
And I'll be the first person, believe me, when the offense plays bad, I'll be the most upset person in Charlestown. which some people probably think I won't be.
Right.
But when we don't play well, I'm upset. But I agree. You know, there's days where the defense has played better than the offense, and
no doubt,
it's not taking anything away from the offense. It's just the defense has got some players over there.
Well, and that's one thing that I was saying is there's been other years that we probably walked away and said, well, you know, the offense, not this year, but in years past, probably handled the defense a little more than their fair share. You know, maybe let's say 80% of the time. Well, I know that 1 week in your preseason this year, I was talking to the coaches, and they kind of all agree. It's like, well, the defense kind of won on Monday, the offense won on Tuesday, the defense won on Wednesday. That's what you want.
Which,
I mean, you're
good.
starting to get
right.
balance.
That's
absolutely.
Good. I mean,
where in years past, it was probably, well, the offense won
Right.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
That's the one good thing about, like Coach Bradford was saying about going one-on-ones is, you know, our offense has had to improve all summer because they're going against good football players. In my opinion, you know, our defense is going to be one of the best in the conference. And if we can move the ball or run the ball or pass the ball on our defense, I feel like when we play some of the teams in the conference, you know, we're going to look better against them because, well, one, they're not going to know what we're doing every play.
Absolutely.
And two, you know, our kids are getting better.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you've been here 5 years. I mean, we'll call it the state of the program. Where do you see things up to now, and kind of where are we going in the future?
Well, I'm pretty pleased on where we're at now. If when I took the job, if they would have gave me a 5-year plan, I don't think I would have said 40 wins and 15 losses. I just didn't know I didn't know the potential maybe as well as I should have. I knew Charlestown had a lot of pride and a lot of history, but I just didn't know we had as many as good kids as what we had. I do think there's some things that we need to improve on, not really within the football program, but they took away our strength and conditioning class. We have to get that back. It would be great if I could get over there half a day and teach that in the afternoon. We're working on that for maybe next year. You know, I had a meeting with the principal, and I told him, I said, you don't think we're 40 and 15 because I'm a great coach, do you? I said, because if you do, I'll be the first one to tell you you're wrong. I said, we've had unbelievable talent, and we've done a great job of coaching all of them. And that, you know, that's all my coaches.
Right.
We've done a great job of coaching all of them. I said, you know, sooner or later, there's going to be a year that we don't have as much talent. But if you give me that strength and conditioning class, you give me the things, the tools,
we can still be
like
successful.
Brownstown,
yeah,
we'll still be able to win.
Still be successful.
You know, a bad year for us could be 6-3, 6-4.
And it's funny you mentioned the principal because we had a chance to talk to him tonight, and Brian and I were kind of impressed because the man was actually talking football. You know, we sit over and talk to him for a little bit, and he was talking about offenses and defenses. So I think you've got a good guy behind you that's going to give you that support. And just to build on Brian's question, you know, when you come in here in a program that was kind of in shambles and you've rebuilt it, I don't think in my time in Charlestown I've ever seen as much confidence from a fan base in a head coach as I see now. And it's easy to get confidence when you're winning, obviously. But I think I've seen the Charlestown fan base really trust in what you do with their kids and really trust in what you do with that offense and defense, and that's kudos to you. So.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because there's times in my as my days go on that sometimes I don't believe that. But I do think that there's some things that we need to work on. You know, the middle school program, I wish we would do more things together as Coach Bradford, if he said, hey, I want them to work, do this, I wish I would have more control of that, and even a little bit on the Little League side too, where, I've had conversations with Mr. Ottersback about what I would like to do with that. And things are going good. Can we get it to another step up to where it could be great? I mean, I think there's some things that we could work on. For the next, we look back here and say 5 more years from now, I think there's some stuff, but we're going in the right direction by far.
I agree.
Well, that's good news, Coach. And, Coach, we got to thank you again for showing up tonight. We need to thank the Digital Connectors and you, Pirate Nations, for joining us tonight for our broadcast.
Yeah, and don't forget, Pirate Nation, we'll be hosting Floyd Central next Friday night. Preseason, it's another preseason scrimmage. Then the regular season starts the following Friday night at Madison.
And we'd love to see big crowds at each and every game, and I'm sure you're going to have them this year, Coach.
I hope so.
But if you absolutely can't make it, you can always join these games at Pirate Pride Sports Broadcasting. We'll cover each and every game throughout the season. You can join us over the internet at charlestownpiratepride.com. And that's going to do it for this year's special edition of Talk with Hawk. This is the 4th annual year that we've done this. Hard to believe that, but thanks to you again, Coach, and thanks to you, Brian Keith, for Coach Hawkins, Brian Keith, and myself, Brian Glover. Good night to everyone.
Good night.
All right, thank you.